Thomas Jefferson, he was the complete contradiction. And that's the contradiction white folks face. He was the best of them. He was a contradiction mentally. He knew that slavery was wrong, but he still wasn't going to give it up. He was a contradiction in terms of what he saw and what he analyzed. He wasn't going to change. What he spoke, all men are created equal, Yahweh that created certain inalienable rights among these life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. He stole that from John Locke, the British political theorist. Because John Locke said it right out. Life, liberty, and property. Jefferson believed life, liberty, and property, but he came up with a euphemism. Pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of happiness for these crackers has been us, their property, or the Native Americans, their land. We only survived this predatory mess of dehumanization. You can't describe it as anything less than dehumanization. Don't be talking about no liberty, justice, and equality. The nation was founded on, not liberty, it was founded on slavery. There's no justice, there's injustice. What they did to the Native Americans, genocide. Equality, they didn't have equality for white people. White women ain't had no equality. White men without property ain't had no equality. The nation was founded on rich white men with property and power, and it's still going on that way. With this bullshit that Joe watching now with Trump and these other things. The people behind the scenes are controlling it. So if you don't have that type of spiritual analysis, you can't begin to even mount a campaign to do for yourself. Because you got to resist this system. And the way to resist it is to keep moving like our great ancestors and tapping into African spirituality. Well, Dr. J, that wasn't African. Yes, they were. But Dr. J, they didn't operate African. How could they survive if they didn't operate African? Once you were captive and walked to the holes of these dungeons, Elmina, Cape Coast, I've been in more than anybody else. From Senegal, Gorée, above Gorée, Saint-Louis, down to the Gambia, James Island with Alex Haley, on to Sierra Leone, on to Ivory Coast, Halfasini, on to Ghana, all of those ports in Ghana, down into Dahomey, on to Nigeria, down to Luanda and Angola, around to Fort Jesus in Mombasa. That's the system that they set up. Even naming the slave ships, the good ship Jesus. We survived because we redid our spirituality, our African spirituality. We were supposed to be dehumanized into property. And property has always been played against us. They knew that we were human. They knew that the African woman's breast gave more life than the white woman's breast. So the slave-owning bastards gave their children to be nurtured by our people. They knew their most important responsibility was to take care of their elderly, their granddads and their grandmas and their great-grands or whatever. But the people they knew who could take care of them better than anybody else was not white folks. They had the black mammy in there to take care of them. And they knew our humanity and our spirituality was such that instead of us looking at the cracker, male and female, saying, you son of a so-and-so, and then taking that pillow and just rolling it over on the corner of the door. African spirituality, reference for life, all life, even negative life, is what kept us in the ball game to this day. And then when they tried to impose their churchness on us, we took that and made it work for us. We might be in the church with them and singing some of their hymns. But then late in the night, we go into the woods in what they call the prayer arbor. And we would be doing our African thing. So even you put through the church that brought us, that's our survival institution. This is what's happening now. That sign that you see, that bag, I'm not a bad lady or bad man, but I carry that bag because that bag represents where we're going to go, what we have to do. And it was created by the president of Senegal. And here he is, creating it, President Wade. And there I am, educating his black, French, African ass. There's President Wade, who created this great monument. Give him his due. French wife and all. Diop had a French wife. But there he is, when I took his glory. African Holy Ghost said, my wife had said, when you have something important to say, make sure you say it, even if it disrupts the program. The black mayors were meeting. President Wade, convocation of the black mayors. I've been organizing the black mayors in America and linking them to the black mayors in Africa. So a couple years ago, we had this session. And when I came into the signing of the agreements, somebody told me, Dr. J, they want you to say a few words, a couple of minutes. Now, anybody who thinks I'm going to be a couple of minutes here, especially when my wife said, when you got something important, make sure you say it. So instead of a couple of minutes, I spoke for 30 minutes. However, after the Holy Ghost had taken over, and when I started to speak, I started to talk about the consciousness that I developed as a child that had African in it, but not real Africa. A consciousness when I got into high school, they had dismissed African peoples had contributed nothing, even to America. And when I went to Europe, it was an opportunity to study international affairs. So I went to Europe to study international affairs, and that's when I met Africa, 1959-60. And I haven't, it's still affecting me. Because I'm in Switzerland. I don't want to go to Paris on this World International Fellowship that I won. Paris got a lot of people there, women and men. If I'm 79 now, you can imagine what I look like at 20. So I knew I couldn't go to Paris and study. Because I grew up with white folks, and they would be chasing me, men and women. So I said, you got to go to a small place to study. I didn't want to go to Brussels. I didn't even want to go to Geneva. I went to Switzerland. Up from Geneva is a little university that was an old castle and a cathedral. And that's where I studied international affairs in French. But I wanted some partnership. It was lonely. So I was looking for something black. And so I see a brother like this one, I run up to him, brother, who are you? Where are you from? And he would look at me and say, Je suis français. I'm French. So after stumbling over so many like him, talking about they French and they blacker the aces as the aces fade, I gave up on dark black people. I said, maybe I could find some brotherhood in a light one, like my own biological brother. So I ran up to my brother here. Brother, who are you? Where are you from? He looked at me and said so proudly, Je suis français. He was from the elite of Haiti or Guadeloupe, Martinique, and Guyana, French Guyana. In 1959-60, when African nations were birthing forth with the new nations, the mind of Africa was not being prepared for them to lead the new nations, African style. The mind of Africa was being prepared for neo-colonialism, the new type of colonialism. And that's what we got now. So this brother, the president of Senegal, let me speak because he was in, when he finally got a chance to get the mic, he said, Dr. Jeffries has said more than I could even say. I was in Europe 59, 58, 59, a year before him, and I know what he's talking about. He's Frenchized with a French wife, so he knows, he can't deny it. And then he said, Dr. Jeffries is correct. We were being prepared to be good French colonial officials, now handling new nations. We weren't being prepared to be African leaders. And so, but my African spirituality is such I couldn't give up on just trying to deal with these Negroes, light and dark, who didn't know who they were. Spirit said, get your black ass out of Switzerland. Take a train under the mountain, Mont Blanc, go to the French side, hit Lyon in the morning, and get to Paris in the afternoon. And that's what I did. And in Paris, I couldn't go to the Champs-Élysées. That's where you buy your Gucci bags and shit. I didn't have no money for none of that. I couldn't go to Pigalle, where you got the French women standing in the doorway looking for anything they can get, even from the blackest of the black. I didn't want no nookie or poontang, as you might call it on the street. I went to the student court in the area of the Sorbonne, and on a street called Rue des Écoles, the street of schools, next to the Collège de France, the French college, was a black center put together by Alioune Diop and Madame Diop. It was Présence Africaine. There, Africans were trying to be African. There, they were dealing with all this knowledge that has burst forth now. They started it in 1946. They continued it into the 50s. Into the 60s, Alioune Diop was taking Cheikh Anta Diop's manuscripts. He had to submit 12 dissertation manuscripts. He had to submit over a 10, 12-year period. He submitted 3 dissertations to get his PhD from the universities in Paris. They couldn't accept his truth about the African significance in world history. But Alioune Diop and the others supported him, and he was finally able to prevail. And as a result, his work continued with this great work that you see here, Civilization and Barbarism. So this brother allowed me, and then my partner, Jabril, who works for the UN, he came and stood next to me. So I was trying to wind it down, but I couldn't, just stop like that. So I told Jabril, and Jabril didn't say anything, he just stood next to me. And I said, Jabril, I haven't done the books. He said, take your time and do the books. And so here is Dr. J doing the books. I gave him Tony Browder's Egypt on the Potomac. I gave him Van Sertima's Blacks in Science, Ancient and Modern. And I gave him Amos Wilson's Blueprint for Black Power. And until he left office, these books were a treasure on his desk. This knowledge that we have is the key to our rehumanization and the destruction of the dehumanization process that has us not raising our children properly, not sustaining our families, letting our young men go into prison without a protest. We shouldn't be protesting somebody killed by the police. That's what the police are there for. Where's the protest? That we have gone from a prison system that had 200,000 or 300,000 people 30 years ago, and now it's got 2 million people. Most of them are young men, and a growing number of young women. Where's that protest? So we're protesting the wrong things. Do you think that you can have 2 million of your people in jail, young men at this crucial point, or young women, and bring them home to your communities? Do you know what jail does to you? They were pushed out of school and they were on the street trying to be junior predators. When you get in jail, if you're not a predator, you become a punk. So you're going to bring back into your families people who've been through a predator process. You're going to marry them with your women. You're going to have them taking care of your babies. We've got to reverse that. We've got to have a Declaration of Independence that we're not going to let you take our young people. We're going to turn them all into Malcolm X, put them in the jail and let them come out with the Malcolm spirit. So we're fooling ourselves if we can talk about financial security and financial this and financial that, and you've got literally millions of your people in jail situations that is a dehumanizing process. We've survived slavery because we had African spirituality. Ain't nobody in the jail's got no African spirituality. It's just straight out survival of the fittest. People who didn't have love when they grew up, didn't have love when they went into their manhood, didn't have love when they got into their fullness, And now you're going to bring them back into your community? We're dealing with that now. My wife and I, a young brother, our great nephew, who she had told his mother, do the right thing and we'll support you to the end. And she left New York and went down to join her husband who was trying to deal with drug addiction. And the rest is history. That young, brilliant youngster, who would be like this young man here, got down into Birmingham, Alabama. We took him out of Birmingham and put him in the Pineywood School in Jackson, near Jackson, where they're trying to do something for our people. But he was so slick, he didn't even survive that. Then he hooked up with white folks. We don't know what kind of drugs they're using, mind-altering drugs. Now we got to deal with him and our family. He can't stay in his grandmother's house. He was threatening her. I went over there to see what the hell was going on. He had to jump up in my face. I started using my martial art training to kick him in his ass. Here's the whole family that has been very successful in trying to negotiate life in America and even put an African component to it. One young man has us so tied up we don't know what to do. We've been in the court the last 4 weeks. First they charged him with a misdemeanor. The way the system works, in order for the misdemeanor to stick, you got to put some felony charges on him. So instead of having a misdemeanor where he could be excused, got felony where they want $50,000 for us. They're trying to send him up into prison for 5 to 10 years. So we got to get lawyers and whatnot. The whole family, all the great work that we've done, that you've experienced me doing now is stymied to deal with this one brother. This one. So if we, with our strength and our understanding and our success, are having trouble, can you imagine what's happening out in our communities with hundreds of thousands of our brothers coming back into the family without a re-entry process? We need financial literacy, but we need a re-entry process. No brother should be allowed out of prison unless the community is doing something with him and putting a monitor system on there. Because if he can't get a job, he's going to go back on the street. If he has an excitement going on around him like the election that's going on now, and he can't even vote, so he's out of it. We got some serious internal problems that have to do with how we're going to restructure our system for strength. And if we don't have African spirituality, it ain't going to work. African spirituality means that you're hooked up with the 3 C's. Communal, you learn to live together. Cooperative, you learn to work together. Collective, you share together. That's the 3 C's. That's the 3 C's that built the pyramids. Pyramids wasn't built by some crackers from outer space. It wasn't built by a slave population. You had a communal African process of working together and living together. They now since found under the land where the pyramids are, they found the quarters for the workers, the records of them being paid, etc. Now we got a whole people that have come on and said that what you did is ours, the Jewish people. You know, and we go with it. My friend Alex, Sharpton, he got a book, Go Tell Pharaoh. Let my people go. So here we have the Christianity of these fools, Protestants, and we've used it for survival. But some of us think that it's the real deal. And wherever you go, the European says, you guys are the real deal. The Pope, John Paul II, running around the world with the politics of the Catholic Church. This is what he worshiped. The Black Madonna, the Black Jesus. When he was almost killed, he had it brought to his bedside in Rome. Wherever you go in the Catholic world, there's a Black Madonna. But they ain't going to tell you about it. I went to Rio and for many years, 88, my wife and I first went, 182, 185. Whenever we went up to see Jesus and touch the hem of his garment, it was always a big to-do. But I always felt something special there. I said, this thing ain't quite right. But it's such a beautiful sight to go up there and overlook Rio. 2003, I took my nephew Hassan and his wife, Rashida. And then when she was going, her mother wanted to go. It finally took about 10 people. We went up to see Jesus, to touch the hem of his garment. The biggest Jesus statue in the world is overlooking Rio de Janeiro, given by the Catholic Italians in the 30s. For the first time, and I felt it, they opened up the pedestal that Jesus is mounted on. And that pedestal is the shrine of the Black Madonna, the patron saintess of Brazil. This is the patron saintess of Poland. Everywhere in the Catholic world they got a Black Madonna, but they're not letting you in on it. Alfred Bunny, the president of Ivory Coast, built this enormous basilica, had it blessed by the Catholic Church. Whenever we go, we say there's something wrong here. Why was this brother building this thing and then getting the Catholic Church to approve it? One of the reasons is that he was caught up in African spirituality and its conflict. President of Ivory Coast is considered a neo-colonialist, but he was one of the most pan-Africanists of all the leaders. How do I know? Because I studied it. Subnational politics in the Ivory Coast. All of our great leaders have dissertations and whatnot, but you ain't never seen one of them. This is mine. 300 pages of studying what was happening in the Ivory Coast. It was printed by the University of Michigan. I never pushed it. Why? Because the spirituality of what was happening in the Ivory Coast, I didn't get approval to put in the book. The success of this brother was because he was hooked up. Those images you see behind me, around Queen T, her son Agnaton, her daughter-in-law Nefertiti, her grandson King Tut. That spirituality of the new kingdom, represented by that dynasty, was what moved the president of Ivory Coast. He was in a society of secrets called the Rosicrucian, the Rose Choir. And the Rosicrucians used as their spiritual icon the Pharaoh Akhenaten, the son of Queen T, who saw the prostitution of the value system of the Nile being polluted by the success of the military exhibits by Tutmosis III and Hatshepsut and others in the dynasty before the Amenemhotep dynasty. So much wealth came into that Nile Valley, that the materiality dominated the spirituality. And Africans were losing their way. So African spirituality spoke to Amenemhotep III, Akhenaten's father, his mother, Queen T. You in Cleveland a couple years ago had an exhibit on Amenemhotep III here. I came to see that exhibit, but the real story was not told to you. The real story is not his grandson, King Tut, and the gold mask. The real story is not the achievements that he made. The real story is the spirituality. That when they realized that the materialism was dominating the spirituality, they said, we have to leave the greatest city in the history of the world. Thebes back in the day, Luxor now, Waset in the African times, the city of 100 gates, the city where there's more spirituality inch per inch than any place in the world. Africans said it is polluted, this leadership. We need to go into the desert and build a new city of God, centered directly around spirituality. And that's what was done. So when Alfred Bunny was building his new city, leaving the capital, Abidjan, one of the most modern of the African cities, and going up to his village and then transferring that area into a new city of God, he was following Akhenaten. There's not a word about Akhenaten in any of the things. Before he built the basilica, he built 4 universities. Built not on the Paris model or the Harvard model, but on the African model of nation-building skills, following the tradition of the great schools of Napoleon. Those 4 universities are there. Nobody talks about them. They just talk about the basilica that he had to do in order to get the Catholic Church to go along with his plans. The first university is a square. And there are 4 squares in the square. This will be the first time I've ever dealt with this in a lecture. But see, it's your fault, because you talk about the spirituality shit, so I gotta do it. I'll start here. Here you have a square. This is one building. This is another building. This is another building. This is the building dealing with computers. This is the building dealing, and then you have dormitories for 2,500 students, homes for professors. You go a couple miles down the road, and you have another university, and it's a rectangle. And the same processes. The teaching is here, the classrooms, the student quarters, etc. Then you go further down a few more miles, and you have an octagon. It's an enclosed octagon. Each side is chemistry, physics, biology. You go a few more miles down, and you come up to another octagon. And it is opened. This one is closed. And this octagon has in the center of it a pool. And in the center of that lake or pool, you have a mound. And around that mound are mosaics. Inside the mound is the library. Inside the mound is the library. The primal waters of Nun. And out of the primal waters arose the mound, which is knowledge. And here it is being played out in the architecture of this and the Ivory Coast. And nobody knows anything about it. I took Ray Nobles there, Regent Sanford, a lot of folks there. And Zinga went. I haven't been able to put it in the dissertation, any of it, until I get approval from the Society of Secrets that's involved. Do you understand how deep shit is? And our greatest leader, Uford is considered a Frenchified African. The greatest of our leaders is Kwame Nkrumah. Nkrumah had the sense and the wisdom of a political leader. Nkrumah had the vision of an economic powerhouse. But Nkrumah lacked African spirituality. Now, I don't want y'all to go on the internet and say Dr. Jeffries took down our greatest leader. He took himself down. You understand what I'm saying? It wasn't his fault. He wasn't raised with African spirituality. He was on the periphery of the Akan culture, which is the center of the culture of Ghana and the Ivory Coast. Uford Bonny is in Akan. This king that I carry around my neck from Peter II, who restored the Ashanti Empire, is in Akan. And Nkrumah was on the periphery of Akanness. He was in a small group in Kofu, the Nzima people. And Nkrumah never got the full education and tradition and power of his people. When you read his history, he talks about his mother. Mother is important. Mother is key. He doesn't talk about the queen mother of his group. He doesn't talk about this senior linguist. He doesn't talk about uncles. You're in a matrilineal society. Uncle is so important. And auntie is so important. And Nkrumah only had a little bit of the Akan tradition. And he came to America not to establish Pan-Africanism, he came to America to become a religious leader. Most of the Africans at that time weren't coming to build nations, they were coming to be educated about the church. So Nkrumah missed out on the African foundation he needed. And so he substituted African spirituality for, he couldn't go Marxist-Lenin. So he came up with the third way between capitalism and communism. They came up with the third way, and that was a socialism that the third world nations took. Yugoslavia, Romania, Cuba, etc. So here is a great leader, one of our greatest, trying to build a model nation of where we need to go without Africanness. Dr. J, how do you know this? Because I was there. Nobody else was there. I first went to Africa in 1961, after I came back from Europe. And that first trip in the Ivory Coast, building a schoolhouse was a fantastic experience. But the shock was to see a new city, Abidjan, city I had never even heard of, just booming and developing. It's a well-planned city. And after we did the schoolhouse, we made a 2,000-mile trip throughout West Africa. We went from across the Ivory Coast to Liberia, up from Liberia to up Volta. We wanted to go up to Timbuktu, but we couldn't. So it was the rainy season. So we cut across Niger, and at the Niger River we crossed it, and we got to Parakou, and at the Tingu, and Dahomey. Then we came across the lake villages to Togo, and our destination was the Akasamo Dam of Kwame Nkrumah. So here we go. We're going through thousands of miles of Africa. They don't have roads. You had to get villagers to pull us out. We had to sleep in sleeping nets. We had a boil of water. And here we're going to go see this great dam. But when we got to this mountain ridge, there was no dam. There was a sign that said, imagine, now here we are, first trip to Africa on this fantastic 2,000-mile trip. And we're going to imagine these two mountain ranges in front of you connected with an earth-filled dam. An earth-filled dam that behind it will grow a 150-mile lake. And with the power of that lake and the dam, it will create electricity around water power. And there'll be a smelter, one of the largest in the world to smelt the aluminum, the bauxite into aluminum, whatever. There will be a new city, an industrial city planned. There'll be a new harbor. And this was Nkrumah's dream. Nobody has dreamed anything like it since the time of the pharaohs. And because Ghana's relatively wealth and relative training and relative Pan-Africanism, over the next 6 years, they were able to achieve it. I'm there in 61, I'm there in 62, I'm there in 63, I'm there in 64, based in Ghana. In 64, I get married. My wife go to live in Africa for 2 years, right next door in Ghana. So I'm there. After I made a 13-mile trip throughout Africa, I came back in February of 66. And we were supposed to do Ghana. But I told my wife, we're tired. Let's go home to Africa because we can get Ghana at any time. Flying out of the airport, I'm looking down at a stream of light coming from the south. And that stream of light is the superhighway, toll road that Nkrumah put in because he was visioning Ghana's growth and whatnot, and you need a toll road. Next to that stream of light was this burst of light that I'm flying over. And that was Job 600. That was Nkrumah's plan to build a place where the heads of state, 30 of them, could meet in Accra. He was designing Accra to be the capital of the United States of Africa. But as I'm flying out of Ghana, I'm taking some notes and I write to a couple of my friends that this is the perfect time for a coup in Ghana. Why? Because Nkrumah wasn't there. Why? Because Nkrumah had a larger than Africa vision of what he wanted to do. He wanted to link up with the socialist world. In doing so, he married an Egyptian woman. And what he could have done and should have done in the African formation, he should have gone to Kumasi and asked for a royal Ashanti wife. That would have been cementing the Akan base that he did not have, because he was on the periphery of African spirituality. The Akans are very spiritual. My success in the world for these last, I don't know how many years, is because I've been absorbed by them. It wasn't something I went into. Just living in Africa with them have absorbed me in them. The senior linguist who put this king in place adopted me as his son. He put 4 kings in place. Prempeh I with his father, Prempeh II, and when he died in 1970, he helped to put Tumfo Fokuwari II in place. And then he was around for Osei Tutu II. This little man is the kingmaker in Ashanti, the senior linguist. And him and I hooked up spiritually. So much so that he was supposed to come to America to see me possibly being killed. Because word had gotten out that somebody was threatening the king. The king had gone to England. They had an exhibit on the Ashanti kingdom, the gold of Ghana. And one of my good friends from Harlem, married to a royal Ashanti, said, we can't have the king coming to America. That's a disgrace. Until they give back the swords and things that they stole when they burned Kumasi, we don't need to bring them to America. So he's woofing that we got to stop him. The person who could do it is Dr. Jeffries. So that word goes out there. Then in order for the king to come, they have to make sure everything is clear. So they send a delegation to America to clear up things. And so they're going to meet with the mayor, they're going to meet at this and that, they're going to go to the Metropolitan Museum. So they go to the Metropolitan Museum where the exhibit's going to be. And the white folks say, everything is fine, but we've got a little problem. They say, what is that? Well, we got some people who are going to raise hell. They say, well, who are these? Well, it's Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, and then Dr. Len Jeffries. So here they're getting 2 examples. Somebody don't mess with the king's visit. So luckily the African tradition is polite. You discuss these things, you find out what's happening, just don't react and act. So they sent a high-powered delegation to investigate. And then you confront it head on. So they asked me to come to a meeting on 120th Street and Lenox Avenue in Harlem. And when I went, I didn't go by myself. I went with this Negro who had met, Brown, Kofi Brown. I went with Professor Small, and I went with another one of our sons of Africa. I at least had 4 of us. They had 20 people jammed up in this building. I was on trial. But at least they have the decency of the African tradition of palaver. Let's discuss this thing to see what this thing is all about. And while we had this going on for a couple of hours, et cetera, then from the back came a voice. I understand what's happening. And that powerful, most powerful man in Ashanti, this little guy, stepped out. And he said, Jeffries is not opposing the Ashanti or Africa. He's fighting for Africans. And so he clarified the thing. So instead of me becoming the person that was killed, I became one of them. in ways that you can't imagine. He even came to my house and said that when he dies, he wants me to help bury him. That scared us. Because in the Akan tradition, that meant when a great man goes, other people got to go to help him out. And if he liked somebody, that would be the person that would be going. So I had to decide, when this was happening, are you a Negro who has understood Africanness and you moved toward Africanness, or are you a Negro that's going to run away the first time real Africanness hits you in the face? And I had to decide whether I was ready to die with this man. And I made the decision, jeopardizing my family's welfare, my wife, and everybody, that I was prepared to go with him. I was hooked up with one of the greatest Africans. He resisted Nkrumah. He wrote a book called The Struggle for Democracy. And he blocked Nkrumah because Nkrumah was using the wealth of Ghana, which is largely Akan, gold and timber and cocoa. He was using it to carry out his Pan-African agenda. Some of it was very good, so we had to give Nkrumah pats on the ass that he was doing a good job. He saved the Guinea Revolution. Ghana was independent in 57, Guinea became independent in 58, Cuba in 59. The French told the Guineans, if you want independence, we're going to pull everything out of Guinea, including the underwear. You ain't going to be able to buy a decent pair of underwear. Telephone, high school report cards. They tried to bring Guinea to the knees because Guinea said no to being a part of the French Union. Because the thing in Guinea, I had been in the mountains of Guinea in 63. I've been in the mountains of Guinea 62, 63. And the Guineans had to say, nous préférons la misère dans la liberté à l'opulence dans l'esclavage. We prefer to be miserable in freedom than to be in opulence in slavery. That was a national theme of Guinea. And so when the French pulled everything out to bring Guinea to its knees, who saved the Guinea Revolution? And Nkrumah's spirituality and his camaraderie with Sekou, he took 50 million pounds of Ghanaian money and saved the Guinea Revolution. Now, the Ghanaians didn't like it, but it was done. He was the leader. And he saved this revolution in Guinea. And that's why I want you to see this African spirituality. I've never been able to lay this out before. And Nkrumah's mimetic ideation, that's what Wade is talking about, the ideas in his head. He was a smart African youngster who wanted to be a minister. He came to America, and there were some of our troublemakers. In Pennsylvania, you had W.E.B. Du Bois, troublemaker, Pan-Africanist communist. And Nkrumah used to go to him, sit at his feet. Then he would go as a student at Lincoln University. He had some troublemakers there. Azikiwe, the president of Nigeria. A brother had asked me about Crossroads Africa. Dr. James Robinson was there. So there was a growing consciousness at Lincoln. But they moved not only to Lincoln, they moved down to Washington, D.C. at Howard University. And there you had our greats trying to get a hold of Africa. You had what they call a group around one of the greatest of our leaders. And he's not, we don't know much about him. When you think of Howard, who do you think of in terms of conscious African thinker? Not Mordecai Johnson, the heavy administrative neo-white president. But who do you think of as the Africans in Howard University? One of them is one of them is our brother who led the way in helping to birth Israel. And he was at Howard University. Ralph Bunche. And they all were in a circle of brothers who were advancing their thinking, trying to plan African victory. So Nkrumah started moving in these circles, Philadelphia, Howard, and then he would come to New York, to the village of Harlem, and that's where he met Dr. Clark and other greats. So Nkrumah got his growing African consciousness from the growing consciousness that was growing among us. So an important date in terms of our spirituality is 1945. That's when the victory march began. 1945 to 1995 is the 50-year turning point of history in favor of Africans. 1945, Africans met in Manchester, England. The Europeans in October and November. The Europeans had met in San Francisco in June. Their system had collapsed in World War II, just as it collapsed in World War I, just as it collapsed in the Depression. They were trying to put their system back together again. And they had to go to black. Just as when they were in the Dark Ages, they went to black, now it became slavery. Now their world systems collapsed with 2 world wars where white folks was killing each other in ways that you wouldn't believe, gassing each other, poisoning, etc. Tens of millions of white folks. World War I, World War II is the greatest struggle of white folks for domination and control. Once they destroyed Hitler, after he destroyed a lot of them, and they destroyed a lot of the Germans, they wanted to restructure their world. So they met in San Francisco to put their world back together again. And then part of that coming back together again is Africa. The wealth of Africa was needed, just as it was needed when they met at the Berlin Conference in 1884-85, when they finally decided with the machine gun, the granddaddy machine gun, the Gatling gun,